Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can all hear me. Please send a message if you cannot. But my name is Emily Walker, and I am the Director of Outreach and Programs here at New Yorkers for Parks, and I'm here today with my colleague, Laura Montross.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Montross, and I am the Outreach Coordinator at New Yorkers for Parks. First off, we just all want to thank you so much for coming to today's webinars and taking the time out of your busy schedules to sit with us as we help you navigate the halls of City Council. So this afternoon's webinar will offer specific advice on how to testify in front of the City Council. Creating oral or written testimony for your City Council members is a great way to directly participate in the workings of city government and an effective way to have your voice heard by elected officials.
We encourage you all to ask lots of questions if you have any and to contribute comments along the way. There is a chat bar on the left-hand side of your screen. If you notice, there is a drop-down menu that has either the option to send to everyone or to send to just Laura and myself as the presenters. Feel free to send messages via either method if you so choose. We are to minutes of our allotted time for that. So please keep your questions coming throughout and we will address them as we finish. With that said, let's get started.
We are New Yorkers for Parks. We are the citywide independent organization championing quality parks and open spaces for all New Yorkers in all neighborhoods. We seek to empower park stewards by providing research, data, and tools to inform community advocacy efforts citywide.
One of the main things we really try to work on as an organization, in addition to providing research and data, is to work with both the City Council and the Parks Department itself, as well as everyday New Yorkers like yourselves who are interested in participating in the public process. Throughout the year, there are multiple hearings that happen at the City Council level about parks issues, and we really view these hearings as an opportunity to help build a case for either increased funding for the Parks Department. Sometimes that can take the form of really advocating for a specific portion of what we view as an essential portion of their budget or their program area. And a great example of that is the hearing that will be happening on Thursday morning, which hopefully most of you have heard about by now. At 10 a.m. on Thursday, we're going to be convening with the City Council Parks Committee, and hopefully some of you can join us. But the hearing Thursday is about partnerships for parks. And it's what's called an oversight hearing. I will get into sort of the nitty-gritty of what kinds of hearings happen later in the presentation, but we just want to sort of preface all of this with an encouragement for you all to participate either in person on Thursday morning or by submitting your testimony in advance. And, you know, I think as park advocates, this is a really great way that we can be effective as a community to really show the City Council that we care about what happens in our neighborhoods.
So Emily, my first question, why should I testify at a City Council hearing anyway? How will my testimony make a difference?
Thanks, Laura. This should probably go without saying, but the public input process really does allow citizens to directly inform our elected officials. Feedback from constituents is critical to helping shape the decisions that our elected officials make. And remember, our elected officials work for us. They are chosen by us to represent our communities, and participating in the public process really does help ensure transparency. The more officials hear from voters in their districts, the more likely they are to act, because guess what? The next election day, they're going to be fighting to keep their jobs. And that's a reality of our democratic system. And so we really try to encourage folks to make your statement at a City Council hearing, because it's a really important part of the City Council hearing process.
That's great. So how do I find out about an upcoming hearing in the first place?
So there are a few different ways that you can try to find out what's happening. The first is to go to the link that we've provided, and we're happy to email some of this information out after today's webinar. But there is a New York City Council e-news service. This is a way for you to find out about goings on at the council level, upcoming hearings, and when you sign up at the link that we've provided, there is an opportunity for you to indicate what topics you're interested in. So if there are topics beyond parks that you want to know about, this is your chance to really sign up to find out more about what happens throughout the legislative calendar. The second recommendation we have is to regularly check a website called NYC Legistar. And they have a tab on that website, and there is a screenshot of that site. And it's a calendar of hearings that are happening, and you can sift through it by committee, by date, and this is your chance to really see what's happening and when. And so we encourage folks to keep tabs on that regularly, because that's where the council keeps all of their information. The last thing we recommend is to just try to find out, if you don't already know, who does represent you. The City Council website has a great way for you to just enter your home address. It will show you who your council member is. And once you find that link, you can go in and you can see the address of both their legislative office, which is likely 250 Broadway. It will also have district office information, an email address for your council member, as well as relevant phone numbers. This is information that we encourage every New Yorker to know and tap into, because without knowing it, you aren't going to be able to really effectively reach your elected officials. And this will come into play later on in the presentation as we give you recommendations about specifically crafting and sharing testimony. But that's really where we recommend you get a start.
All right, thanks so much. So I am on the Legistar website, and I notice that some of the hearings are listed as Oversight under type, and some of them seem to be legislative. What's the difference?
That is a great question, and I think it's one that a lot of folks maybe don't know the difference between. So an oversight hearing is really an opportunity for the City Council to convene city agency officials to do a deep dive into a given topic. So for example, this Thursday morning, the hearing about partnerships for parks is considered an oversight hearing. Now, this is likely a chance for the City Council to better understand how Partnerships for Parks functions. They're going to be asking questions of folks who work in the Parks Department and who work in Partnerships for Parks. This is going to be a way for them to really understand how folks spend their time as staff of this program. What kinds of programming opportunities does the organization offer to communities? This is something that happens regularly throughout the year. On a variety of topics. And so this week's example is just one. The legislative hearing is sort of a different beast. It's when an elected official has introduced legislation. So these are obviously bills that are introduced at the council level that have a direct impact on either programming or agency staffing or funding. And when you look at Legistar, you can see the difference in the type column. If it says oversight, then that's your clue. It's an oversight hearing. If it says introduction, that's actually a sneaky way of saying it's a legislative hearing. So a legislative hearing really is a chance for folks to understand what the possible impacts of proposed legislation might be. And that's a chance for both agencies to come and testify, experts to come and testify, and the community. So that.
All right, great. So now I know when a hearing is happening. I do have something I want to bring up with the City Council Committee. What now? What should I expect?
So the first thing to note when you look at Legistar and you see that a hearing is coming up is, where is that hearing actually taking place? There are usually two options for City Council hearings. The first is City Hall, which we've provided a lovely photograph of. The 250 Broadway is basically across the street from City Hall Park. They're not far from each other. But one of the things we really encourage you to do, regardless of the location you're attending, is to try to arrive about 10 minutes. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . early security. You won't have to take off your shoes, but you will have to put your bag through a metal detector. And for either location, you're going to have to let them know what you're there for. So if there is a City Council Parks Committee hearing that you want to attend and testify at, or even just listen in, let the folks know who are checking you in at the security that that is what your intended destination is that day. Additionally, if you are going to 250 Broadway, something to make note of is that there are a few different lines when you arrive at the building. There is a City Council specific line for visitors, and that's on the left-hand side. The other two lines are for NYCHA visitors. So hopefully this is a tip that will save you time as you come to check in. And Thursday morning's hearing is happening at 250 Broadway, so we hope this is helpful. The other thing to note, when you actually arrive at your hearing room, the first step you're going to want to take if you plan to testify is to find the sergeant at arms. This is a City Council employee whose job it is to check folks in who plan to testify. Depending on the topic, you may be asked if you are testifying in favor of or against the topic at hand. That certainly isn't always going to be the case. For an oversight hearing, you likely won't need to check that box, but you do need to check in advance with the sergeant at arms if you intend to testify. And they will use that information to call you up when it is your turn to provide your public input.
All right, great. So I've checked in and I'm sitting down. Can you tell me a little bit about what's going to happen in the hearing?
Sure. The first step is, generally speaking, the City Council Committee is going to ask questions of the agency and program officials who are there. So for Thursday morning, we can expect that the Parks Department and staff from Partnerships for Parks will be questioned for probably about the first hour or so. It depends on the topic, but generally speaking, it's about that length of time. Once the agency officials have given their prepared testimony and answered any questions that the City Council might have of them, the public comment period begins. This is the chance for organizations like New York for testimony they have brought. So if you have signed up with the Sergeant at Arms, you're going to wait until they call you up to read your statement. It can be, depending on the topic, a very crowded hearing room. Other times it's not so crowded and you won't have to wait too long, but that's generally the flow of a hearing.
All right, thanks. So what can I do to prepare my testimony? Do you have any specific advice?
So the first thing we recommend is to keep your testimony tight. You really want to make sure that you really state your case early on, because the public process for testimony is fairly time constrained. So public comments are generally restricted to 1 to 2 minutes. We try to make sure that folks know that in advance. So if you have something really critical that you want the council to hear from you, we recommend sort of front loading that within your testimony. And try to read what you've written and see if it fits in the time frame. Other sort of tips we recommend: tell the folks at the council how many residents you represent, what neighborhoods do you work in, what kinds of programming does your community organization offer. This is a way for you to show that you understand what's happening in your community and that you're representing more than just yourself. Elected officials want to know that their decisions have an impact on more than one resident. So the more you can really bring your community into your testimony, the better. And finally, just a logistical note that we want to make for all of you is to bring 20 printed copies of your statement if possible. This is a chance for you to make sure that any council members who aren't present that day, or maybe who have had to leave the hearing early, will still see your statement. They will still have your testimony and it will be officially submitted on the record. So this is a great way to make sure that even if folks aren't present to listen to you saying your testimony, they're still going to see it.
All right, so I'm waiting to testify, but I noticed that some members of the City Council have left the hearing. What does that mean, and what sorts of decisions are made at the end of the hour?
So first and foremost, we just want to make sure folks understand that if council members actually leave a hearing, that doesn't mean that they're not fully participating in the hearing process or aren't willing to hear what you have to say. Our elected officials have really robust schedules and they have a lot of places to be. So it's not uncommon for committee members to leave hearings as they happen. That being said, it's also not terribly uncommon for non-committee members of the City Council to come and join if it's a topic that they're interested in. So, that's something we just want to reiterate. Don't lose heart if you see a council member get up and leave. It's likely because they have a scheduling conflict. Hearings are really, they're not a trial. It's not a system where the council is making a decision right then and there. The hearing is just an opportunity for them to better understand a topic and better understand what community members have to say and what expert organizations have to say. So take heart. This is a chance for you to help shape their decision making in the end. And we really just want to encourage you to participate, because even if there's only one council member hearing you, it makes a difference. And another thing we recommend is, even if your given council member isn't on the, let's say, Parks Committee, if you're going to testify, send a copy of your testimony to your actual elected official, regardless of whether they're on that committee. You can email it, you can send it via snail mail. This is a way for them to know that constituents in their district are paying attention to an issue that relates to parks. So don't think that if a council member isn't a member of a given committee, that means they aren't interested in knowing what you have to say about that topic.
Great, so the hearing has ended, and I am curious about what are some next steps I can take. Does New Yorkers for Parks offer any resources for someone like myself to get more information or to take some more actionable steps?
We do. Hopefully many of you who are on this webinar today have seen our advocacy guide called How Can I Improve My Park? It is available as a PDF download through our website in both English and Spanish. We also have physical copies. Particularly how to understand the city process as it relates to getting funding for your park. So we encourage you all to take a look at that guide, and we can send out a link to that at the end as well. Additionally, we're thinking of offering other webinars just like this one. So one of the things we would love to hear from you in the chat section before we leave today is any sort of topics you might be interested in. We really view this as a way for us to help empower our advocate network. So if there are topics that you think would be beneficial, we would love to hear your ideas. Again, I will reiterate, there is a hearing this Thursday morning at 10 a.m. And it's about partnerships for parks. And I think this is likely a program that's very near and dear to a lot of you. And we're hoping that this can be the beginning of a process to build a really big campaign push in the budget this next year for them. We think that they need increased staffing. We think they are doing an incredible amount of work with not a lot of folks actually on the ground to do it. And we certainly hope you can help join us in this effort to reiterate how important this program is, and that it's really crucial to the long-term health and sustainability of our parks. And finally, some of you may have participated in our meetings last year, but we will be holding a set of borough meetings this winter. This will be a chance for us to really think deeply with you about how we can help shape the parks budget for the next fiscal year, but also how we can shape the upcoming election. I know we're probably all sick of election talk at this moment, but it's important to note that the next year will be an election here locally in New York for both the mayor and a lot of city council seats. And we will also have a brand new executive director starting this winter, Lynn Kelly. We hope that these meetings will be a great chance for you to come and get to know our staff and our new leadership, and for you to really help shape the next steps of what we do as an organization.
All right, so let's just do a few final points for a summary. As far as I know, what I've learned today is that I need important to say about my community and the needs of my community to the city council members. I will draft a 2-minute testimony. I'll then print out 20 copies to bring and send some copies to elected officials. I'll be sure to check directions, and when I arrive, I'll sign in with the Sergeant at Arms. Taking all of this into consideration, I will make sure to mark on my calendar that there is a Partnerships for Park hearing on November 17th at 10 a.m. at 250 Broadway. And I look forward to seeing the New Yorkers for Park staff there. So at this time, folks, thank you so much for sitting through this with us. I hope it was helpful. We're going to open up to a few questions. As we mentioned earlier, if anyone has any topics they would like to recommend to us for future webinars, or just questions you have in general about our organization, we are on the line and listening. We also have put up our contact information for both Emily and I. Feel free to reach out to us via phone or email. And one final note is that yes, we will be doing the borough meeting. So if we meet you virtually on the phone or email, we hope that's an opportunity for us to meet in person. So I'm going to hand it over to Emily to start looking at some of our questions.
All right, it looks like we have a question from an attendee about whether this recording will be made available after the call with the slides. We are happy to provide a link. We have been recording this presentation. Hopefully it was recording worthy, but we will make that available to folks, and it will actually be sent out tomorrow in a newsletter that is coming from New Yorkers for Parks. So we will be sure to share it. I think the webinar will be available for about a month after today, at possibly longer, but we will certainly let you know. But yes, this will be available. And it looks like right now that's the only question we have. Are there any other folks who might have something they would like to ask of us while we're still on the line? All right, so I think with that, if you have any information up on the screen, we are happy to chat further with you offline, and we hope that we will see many of you on Thursday morning. So thank you so much for participating in today's webinar. We hope this was useful, and please stay tuned for more information about upcoming webinars and meeting opportunities with us, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.